Hey guys, welcome back to the next Devlog. I'm happy to inform you that I once again made decent progress on the game and we're right on track for the vertical slice demo of Q1 2024. I am still recovering from a cold, but don't be frightened, the progress has already been made. Let's jump straight into it. The first changes are located in the UI department. In my game's inventory system, the player is able to focus certain items for consumption. Grenades and medical consumables, for example. After a recent playtest with one of my friends, we figured out that it would be best if the player is able to see which items are currently focused for consumption. I added 2 new UI boxes to display these. In addition, I've been overhauling the whole visuals of the inventory. I added a holographic type of shader which makes the whole inventory way more interesting and vivid to look at. Speaking of more interesting things, I've also been adding different crosshairs for different guns which gives them more personality. These are mainly inspired by modern Resident Evil titles. There's also a new UI element which wraps all interactables in screen space. It's inspired by Tsitsuki's game Partisan. Other devlogs in general are a great source of inspiration, which is why I encourage you to watch some. The health UI has also been slightly altered. The problem with only the heartbeat was that the player couldn't precisely read the exact health points off of it. I added a literal expression for it, which makes an assumption about your current health. This at least gives the player more of a rough estimation when and how much heal items need to be consumed. The next updates are in the item department. A ton of new items found their way into the game. Besides all of the actual crafting and healing items, I've also been adding 2 new grenades to the game. A flashbang, which briefly stuns enemies and makes them vulnerable to being kicked. Just like in the old Resident Evil fashion, if an infested enemy has a parasite exposed, the parasite instantly dies. I also added a late game mayhem gun to the game, a handheld grenade launcher. It's total fun to shoot up enemies with this one, but it's also pretty overpowered due to its endgame purpose. As for the other items, these are just ordinary crafting items like scrap metal and other stuff that is required to craft more relevant and higher value items. The way healing works in my game is once again pretty similar to Resident Evil. There are red and green painkillers at the very core. Said painkillers can then be combined in all kinds of fashion and even made more potent with a chemical catalyst. The more potent a mixture is, the more it heals. I still have to figure out the exact balancing, but that's the general idea at least. I don't know about the exact combination rules of red and green yet, but I will definitely figure it out soon enough. Wishlisting my game helps a lot, so if you want to support this project for free, simply slap that wishlist button. Thank you! Let's head to the new gameplay stuff. In order to make the darkness in my game more threatening, I decided to nerf the flashlight by reducing its range and adding a battery mechanic. The battery recharges automatically but drains quicker than it replenishes, which forces the player to use it with more thought. This also encourages the use of magnesium flares. These were pretty pointless to use before because you always had an everlasting bright flashlight at your disposal. In addition, I've been completely overhauling all reload animations for the guns. There's a new UI element in place which informs about the progress while reloading. Just like with the first reload animations, there isn't any actual reloading happening. I am simply moving the gun around with some noise while playing reload sounds. But I think it sells the effect quite well and it definitely feels way better than the old system. One of the last important features for my game was independence. Until recently, the player could order his AI teammates to work on certain tasks. But that's all he could do. I wanted to give the player the choice, which is why I added the functionality to manually work on tasks on his own. So now the player has full control over a situation. In addition, downed teammates now spawn a task, which enables the player to revive them. Still a bit rough around the edges, but it works pretty good already. Some of my early enemy prototypes had gathered quite some dust, which is why I gave them a quick refresh. The security drone comes back nearly textured and with new hit VFX. I also made sure it still works, which it does. There's also this tiny robot thing I call Jump Charge. I enhance it with some sound and a red explosion indicator. I also made it so this enemy can make or break your day. It deals a lot of splash damage, but is also quite fragile. If you time it right, you can even use it against other enemies. But you definitely don't want to ignore this one. Besides that, I also created 4 different degrees of infestations for the humanoid enemy. The ones on the right are freshly infested and only undead for a shorter period of time. The more left you go, the more rotten and overgrown they become. I plan to have the mild ones at the top, whereas the filthy and disgusting ones are located at the very bottom of the laboratory. One enemy type I still want to add is some kind of infested dog, which was held as a test specimen in the lower areas of the laboratory and is now controlled by the fungus as well. A giant infested monkey who causes mayhem would also be cool, but that's not a priority right now. The end boss of my game will most likely be a giant mech operated by an evil scientist within the lab. So there's still room for new stuff in the enemy/boss department. The first level of my game has received a big expansion as well. The old level was quite short and had a strong linearity, which I wanted to break up. I added a giant river with a strategically fortified bridge. This bridge acts as a security wing and connects the laboratory entrance to the also newly added airfield. This airfield is used to operate the whole research site and is also the place where personnel is being flown in and out. I also managed to add some evil corporate propaganda to set a strict tone for new employees. I think I definitely nailed the look of the airfield, especially with these rain puddles. It looks pretty dope with the lighting and all of the mist. The main entrance of the laboratory has also been completely reworked. It now looks like a giant high-security maze-like complex, which it actually is. Things inside the laboratory should have a hard time escaping from there, and getting in shouldn't be so trivial as well. There are 2 circular rows of high-voltage fences paired with tons of machine gun nests. The electricity of the fences is just cosmetic for now, but I think I'll add some form of insta-kill mechanic to it if anything touches it. It definitely looks like a proper secret research bunker entrance now. There's also a freight elevator located at the side of the main entrance, which can be accessed directly from the bridge. This one has been welded shut though, to ensure that nothing goes in or comes out. So the squad has to take the main entrance. You can also find flocks of crows on all points of interest now. I think it just adds to the menacing atmosphere of the forest and the secret research site. There's also a bunch of smaller, new or changed things, which I will list in sequence now. I added a bunch of new juice to the game, which includes blur and camera shake for guns and explosions. Speaking of guns, I also added a gun sway to every gun, which makes them feel more rigid and weighty. Aiming is so much more fun now. There's also a small head tilt in place now when aiming. It makes the whole aim model look way more appealing, and I can't believe that I'd only adjusted this after 1.5 years of development. Speaking of aim model, I changed the aim model of the heavy revolver into a more of an Arthur Morgan style. I think it simply looks cooler and more badass. I've also been revisiting all of the guns parameters to make them feel more unique and distinct. Lastly, I've been also experimenting with an additional new thread in my game, but I'll leave it at that for now. So yeah, that's basically the current state. I will wrap all of this up and polish it before I revisit the persistence in my game. My save and load system has gathered quite some dust as well, which is why I need to break up the old logic again and rework it completely. I also have to make my settings menu work. Once this is done, I can add the final voice package before I am set for the vertical slice release, after everything has been tested thoroughly. If you're interested in helping playtest, feel free to join my Discord. Announcements will pop up there. Lastly, feel free to wishlist my game on Steam to help spread the word. Like, comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like my content. Thanks for watching, have a nice day, and please don't spill your beer.